don't stop immediately because
I think I'll start with a nice
do
one,
that.
just very shortly, and then you all... BFM 89.9, the business station. Caroline, Uma and Ezra here with you on the evening edition. BFM celebrates birthday number 3 today. And here with us for the next hour, the man behind BFM, the brains, the bronze not so much maybe, the boss, Mr. Malik Ali. Welcome, nice to have you finally on the show.
Good evening, evening edition team.
We've been waiting a long time for this.
I am sure. You've been ripping me the whole day about it.
What I think has to be clarified is that the entire staff is, eagerly anticipating this interview. They're just circling the room
like vultures.
Yes,
ambushing me once a year.
They're here. Now, in all the interviews that you've done in the newspapers and so on and so forth, Malik, we know why you decided to start BFM.
Mm-hmm.
Why business, why format radio, why classic rock. Suffice to say, we know it all where that's concerned. So today we're going to have some fun instead. The morning run is famous for the breakfast grill, so this evening we're going to do things a little differently. We're calling it the slow roast with Malik Ali.
No problem.
Alright, so we're going to roast you a little bit. We're breaking the number one rule, because normally it's what happens in the studio stays in the studio today. We're breaking all of that wide open and telling you exactly what goes on here at BFM, what type of feedback, suggestions and complaints we receive, and Malik Ali is going to address them right here live on air. So if you want to have your say, you want to ask Malik anything, this is your chance. You have suggestions on how we can improve, you have complaints, or you want to tell us how much you love us, you can do that as well. Give us a call. 0377109000 is the number. Text us 016201900 or tweet us at BFM Radio. We're doing a live feedback session with the boss for the next hour. So we're going to kick off with some of the emails that we've received so far.
Right, I think we should, given that it's our birthday, I think we should start with a pat on the back.
A pat on the back.
We haven't had enough of that today.
No, just to say, I don't think we have. But one pat on the back from Kian He, who loved the Merdeka series. He said the Daughters of the Merdeka series is just fantastic. Since I started to listen to BFM 1 to 2 years ago, the only time I tune out is after the evening edition. Oh, and glad football season has started again. Makes me wish I don't reach home too early so I can hear the show.
Yeah, you were very proud of this series, Malik.
Yep, extremely. I think there was some fantastic stuff coming out on Kundri, also out of Seokchu. I think they were very, very sincere. They spoke from the heart, and I think that's critical. And I think they reminded us a little bit about the history that actually was a history lesson for me. One doesn't know the background, one always just started with 57 and move on from there. For some of us, even from the 70s and move on from there. So having voices of, this very personal relationship that you have. I mean, we did Merdeka series, we did the daughters of the founders, and being a son of, someone from that era. When people talk about Malaya and that relationship, that bond that you have with parents, when they speak about the Japanese occupation, they spoke about the British colonial times. I brought back a lot of memories of my conversation with my father about that, and I think that was very, very heartwarming, very touching.
I agree. I think one of the things that we kept going back to was the fact of how much we learned, because there was so much we didn't know as well when we heard those things. You can of course get that on podcast, bfm.my, the Daughters of the Merdeka series.
Well, moving on to other pats on the back. We have there's one BFM listener that's mentioned in that breakfast grill evening edition, our breath of fresh air, in comparison to the other idiots we have on other stations. That's
to be fair, I removed the name of the other station. It was there in feedback, but I didn't think it was fair.
But what do you think in terms of I guess 3 years on, in terms of the content that you've been providing? Is it something that still relevant, still engaging?
I believe so. I think the biggest gauge of that. First, let's just that's a feedback from a listener. I wouldn't call the other stations what he called it. I think,
of course not.
I think they have their own positioning, they have their own formats, and they are catering to their own audiences. We cater to our own audiences. I think that's for the working professional, for the thinking person. So yes, I think we're improving. I think that that we've gone through this thing about our values, and one of our critical values is innovation. Always pushing ourselves harder and harder in terms of, and it gets harder every time, right? So this is the 3rd anniversary, we're doing this. The next anniversary, what do we do? We're always pushing ourselves harder and harder. But I think creativity and innovation is limitless if you really, really focus and be as open as you can. to new ideas. So yes, I like the direction we're going. I think the Merdeka series, Dr. Merdeka series was one of those, was a manifestation of that. But going forward, it's going to be, it's going to be really challenging to up the game all the time, but that's what we'll push on, and with you guys, we continue to do.
All right, so anything you want to say to Malik, what you need to do is give us a call, 0377109000. In fact, we do have a caller on the line. It's Edmund from KL. So Edmund, what do you have to say? Tell us. Hello? Edmund?
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Edmund. Okay, Malik is listening live. What do you have to say?
Alright, I love BFM. BFM station is the best station in Malaysia, I can tell you that. All the DJs are fantastic, Malek. In fact, I love the most program is the breakfast grill. Just before the stock market starts, that is what the thing is. Everyone is looking at it. And is it possible that the DJ will cover more about the regional stocks and the US stock as well?
So thank you very much for those comments. I think we do cover, US markets, not specific US stocks, not specific regional stocks. The reason being, I think, because the access to those stocks, for example, you want to buy Citibank, is still it's still quite limited in terms of getting access to purchase those stocks. But certainly for local stocks, I think we cover it in depth. I think you have that Market Watch at 9:20 in the morning, where we actually talk specifically about analyst reports coming out, buy, sell, or hold. I think the emphasis will still be very much on domestic markets, simply because that's the ability for our punters and investors to actually sign up, purchase those things directly.
All right, thank you very much, Edmund. Keep those calls coming in, 0377109000. We're waiting for your calls. Text 0162019,000 or tweet us at BFM Radio. BFM 89.9. Good evening, Caroline, Uma, and Ezra here with you on the evening edition, and it's the slow roast with none other than the boss of BFM, Malik Ali. 0377109000, number to call. You can text 0162019,000 or tweet us at BFM Radio. Over to another email that we received.
We've got some suggestions, actually.
We've got some suggestions. I'll go through the first one. Obviously, we just discussed the amount of content available via BFM. But of course, one of the attractions is the music being played and the selection of it. I'm going to sort of summarize what Shura, Shima, and Vincent Lau have essentially said is, BFM, it's time you guys realize that your listeners are not just grown-ups, but also teenagers. I love that you guys are airing some country and hard rock music, but please make the country music fresher and more 21st century. What do you say to that, Malik, in terms of, I guess, because I think the breath of fresh air that the music selection has brought is something that's really sort of reinvigorated, format or non-format radio. What do you have to this in terms of keeping music more contemporary, in terms of at least really cool, cutting-edge, independent music and those sort of things?
I guess there are times when we cater specifically for that. I think like 33 RPM, run by Zach Yusuf. I think he's created a really good program in terms of independent music and so on. So I think he's captivating youth now. Whether we play on the main playlist, I think I would like to leave that decision to people who know about music, and I think I'm not one of them.
I'm not one of them.
Yes.
I'm a musical philistine, so I make decisions on areas where I can contribute, and in areas where I don't. I rely on better.
Would you care to elaborate on the phrase musical philistine? For example, what kind of music do you like?
What are your preferences?
I'm a child of the 80s, and 80s was a funny era, right? And every time I say 80s, everyone just kind of roll their eyes and look at me. Something's wrong when I say that.
When he says a funny era, I think it's also interesting.
It's very interesting. In fact, we have a little something lined up especially for you, Malik, because we know you've told us before that this is your favorite song, and you are not allowed to play it on your own station. So for you, today, we have lined up for you none other than Madonna's True Blue. Let's listen to it. Here we go.
What a setup.
So keep those calls coming in. 0377109000 is the number. Text 0162019,000. Tweet us at BFM Radio. This is probably the one and only time you're going to hear Madonna here on BFM.
Jatuh secret habis.
Here we go. BFM 89.9, the business station. Caroline, Ezra and Uma here with you on the evening edition. It's the Slow Roast with Malik Ali, and that was Madonna's True Blue, especially for the boss of BFM, because we love you, Malik.
Yeah, I really walked into that one.
You did. We hope you enjoyed it. We were hoping that you would stand up and dance. Unfortunately, that was not to be.
You did, Caroline, and so did Frida. Oh my gosh.
Yes, we did, but we look nice dancing. All right, moving over to the phones. You can keep those calls coming in. 0377109000 is the number to call. On the line is Eugene. Hey, Eugene. Eugene.
Hey, yep.
What do you have to say? Malik is listening.
Hi, I think everyone's doing a good job at the moment. The shows are all very informative and interesting, but there's one thing I've noticed in the pattern in the shows.
Okay.
Is that most of the topics, although they are interesting and informative, they tend to skirt more politically charged issues and current issues. Things like, let's say, for example, the refugee swap or the native customary rights, things like that. So I was just wondering whether is there any plans for moving into these kind of topics where we maybe not criticize whoever's making a decision, but what all this implies to the people and the people involved in it.
Okay, Eugene, so thank you very much for that. So Malik, what's your stance on that?
Carol, I'd just like to add to that also that, in tandem with one of the complaints that we received, Malik, from Cameroon, is I really love listening to your station, but I hope you refrain from discussing matters like religion. So it's just really interesting that on one hand you have listeners who want more of something and, listeners who want less of something else. How do we manage this?
Yeah, so I think I was about to reply that there's two schools of thought here. Well, in fact, there's as many schools of thought as there are people on this topic. I think the way we like to do is we like to be constructive. I think in Eugene's comment about the refugee issue with Australia, I think we've covered it actually. It's a current affairs program, 7:30, done by Melissa and Kathleen, and they actually covered the topic quite extensively, so we do cover that. Some other areas, I'm sure some producers have been looking at native rights. But I think let's put things on the table. I mean, there are things like politics are happening today. There's a lot of videos, this and I think that kind of thing. I think one thing I stress among the team is that let's not be part of this media circus that tries to rake mud at each other. I mean, that's not constructive. He says, she says. We have enough of that at radio stations. We hear that amongst politicians. He said, she said, I was quoted, police reports made, etc., etc. I think I've gotten feedback that people are a little bit tired of that, and they just want people just to get, hey, let's get going. We have a few positives, a few negatives. Let's try to address, solve issues, and so on. I think that's the philosophy that I like to bring. Is that we are here to help solve issues. We're here to be constructive. Constructive solutions is fantastic. Just mud raking, that's politicians trying to gain popularity.
All right, Eugene, what do you feel about that?
That's pretty good, but not so much of the mud raking and slinging or whatever, but more of actual things like, I know education has been gone through pretty thoroughly. Even things like foreign workers. What about the discussion on foreign workers, things like that? We have millions of foreign workers in Malaysia, and it's a topic that's barely talked about in public. Maybe we could. I'm not sure if BFM has covered it. I have not listened to every single show, I admit. But our politicians don't seem to talk about current affairs at all. They are more interested in mudslinging. So when we want to find information about this, there's really no other sources of information that we can trust sometimes.
Yeah. Well, the feedback I'm getting from you, Eugene, is that we can do more to cover topics like that. I take that feedback. I would say our current affairs team are listening in as well. So I think they will be looking at. They will be taking that feedback too. Listen out at 7:30 a.m. I think that's after the 7:30 news. I think that's when most of our sort of topical issues come into play. So look out for that. If you're still not hearing things that you want to hear about on that show, yes, please send the feedback to feedback@bfm.my, and everyone in BFM receives that. I certainly look at that. I look forward to receiving every single email on that.
Well, Malek, in addition to that, and also in response to Eugene, for example, in the issue of foreign workers, I think even here on the evening edition, we've discussed the issue of the 6P program extensively over the past month, comfortably actually, and of course, we will try to keep folks up to date as much as possible with regards to the developments of the issue of foreign workers.
All right, so thank you very much for that question. Now back to the emails.
We have another email. It's very comfortable. We have Rudin who says, you have a really bad advertisement playing. They haven't specified which one specifically. About a guy who rudely admonishes the other but not using turn signals when driving. We are Malaysians, we don't shout and speak impolitely. Please stop the advertisement.
You know, the thing, when I saw this email, I'm thinking, which Malaysia are you living in, Rudin? Because, there's so many Malaysians shouting. Road rage is a huge issue.
Right.
So, Malek, what is your stance on bad advertisements? Because obviously clients pay us, to come up with advertisements. And if this is what they want, do you think it's all right to say no?
Yeah, I think that's it's tough when the client is saying here is I like this advertisement to go on. What I like to, but actually I don't think it's really the client's issue. Sometimes I think sometimes it's just a question of you playing one ad in several radio stations, and you do not want to create a second ad specifically for BFM. Right? So generally they use a generic ad for all radio stations, and then of which BFM is one. And then what happens is that it sounds a little bit out of place at BFM. So we try, our sales team, our account management team, do their best to try to persuade the client, look, for the BFM audience, this might put them off, or this might not be the appropriate thing. But at the end of the day, it's a client's call. I haven't not got to the position of being, you can be perceived as hugely arrogant and say, hey, yeah, thanks for your money, but I'm not putting that on. That's a bit rough.
Yeah.
All right, so before we head in for the news, one very, very quick one here from Tan Lahin, who says, I really enjoy BFM. However, some of the announcers are quite amateurish. They use more than 100 fillers during a 15-minute report. We all apologize for that. It's really irritating. Can you give them some training, please, Malik?
I'm not quite sure what the question was referring to.
Yes, that was a filler. Okays, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that, that's me.
There you go.
And it's, fillers are natural. I think we generally recruit, we put people on there who know the topic. I think that's the critical thing. I think if someone would just have perfect diction, no fillers, versus someone who knows about the topic and researches well, I would want the latter any day. Right. That's the critical thing.
Right. So content over,
we're all human beings.
It is possible that we might keep our jobs. Fantastic.
You're right, yeah, looking good.
Thanks, boss.
All right, we'll be back with Malik Ali's Slow Roast in just a little bit. You can keep on calling in if you like. We are taking a call, 03-7710-9000. That is the number. Tweet us at BFM Radio, text 016-201-9000. In the meantime, we've got the news coming your way. Melanie Dillican lined up. Stay with us. BFM 89.9.
BFM 89.9.
Mic on!
Good evening, Caroline Uma and Ezra with you here on the evening edition of Slow Roast with Malik Ali, who is of course BFM's boss. Any questions you have for him, do give us a call. You can get to talk straight with the man. That isn't normally the case, really. 03-7710-9000, number to call, number to text 016-201-9000, or tweet us at BFM Radio. Now we're receiving quite a few texts coming in.
Yeah, we got a whole bunch of them. One which actually is from Bob of PD, who asks, can we get more insights of rural constituents and their issues?
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think there's actually a sponsored show on Paddy Farmers this last weekend.
That's right, Here and Now. It's a new show.
Yeah, and it's a new show that comes on Saturday at 3 p.m. And I think that one really tries tries to look into sort of plight of people that we don't normally hear about. And the first of Paddy Farmers, talking about Penang this weekend. So that is one show that addresses that. And actually it's not produced by BFM, but it's produced by a company called ... And but I think we like the content, and therefore we've decided to air that.
Right. An email from Ng Lilian who says, Dear BFM, I would like to suggest that BFM considers the level of English proficiency of their guests before putting them on air. I find that many have poor English, struggle to converse. It's quite embarrassing to hear such conversations on air, and it does not help promote good English usage. Now, as a media platform, obviously, Malik, do you feel that BFM should be setting a better example when it comes to the level of English, and how do you reconcile that with good guests?
I think guests, I expect that of us. I don't expect that of guests. But for us, even for us, I don't mind the Malaysian accent. I don't mind the slight pronunciation gaffe that we do. That's okay, so long as the substance is there, so long as we're dealing with the issues, we're knowledgeable, we research well.
It's still about content.
It's still about content, still about criteria. I think, again, with someone perfect diction versus someone who's not, with better research, better knowledge, I think I prefer the latter.
A tweet from Iris, Mr. Malek, is there anything you absolutely will not put on air, but of course besides the obvious sensitive stuff?
Case to case, that's such a generic statement. We need to look at stuff. There obviously are. I mean, there is a content code, but I think I look at the spirit of content code and see, whether things. If we're against it, then we go on.
Give us some examples of what you've had to deal with and what you've decided to put on air versus what not.
Can we come back to the question later? Do we just let the memory banks go around? I have a very bad memory.
Certainly. Anyway, BFM turns 3, you turn much older this year as well. Anyway, actually, we have a question from Mohan, our listener, who says, how old are you this year, Malik?
I'm 45 this year.
So forgive his memory.
We actually had a caller, Ezra, who called. He called during the music and the news, and he said, "Congratulations, great station, and it is a station of choice. The only thing is the song choices." He said, "Too many repeats." There was this ad saying other stations repeat music, but BFM is actually the culprit, was his criticism.
Whoopsie.
I know.
I do feel, I actually sympathize with that. There is this, it's funny, this one thing I've learned about radio, and particularly music, is that, a lot is driven by software. Program the music, and, not like the old radio station where every presenter had his own, stash of music.
Yes. Just in case that.
Just in case of that, yeah.
Nice.
I'm glad I made you laugh, Caroline. But I think, and software sometimes is a bit of a black box, and I don't like black boxes because, I think good stuff goes in, but sometimes when it figures out the rotation and all that, so I'm always keeping a wary eye on software, and sometimes I do feel we do, especially with BFM, a lot of listeners come back to us and say they listen to us continuously. So something that might apply to a normal music radio station might not apply to us if our listening times is that much higher, and it is that much higher.
Which is quite interesting actually, because I think the normal attention span for radio is very short.
Yes.
But I guess if you're listening to the morning run or the breakfast grill, you have to tune in for about half an hour.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the music selection is such an emotional attachment to the listener as well.
Yeah.
And that's something we'll obviously look to address.
And very familiar music sometimes, and very classic music. And when you play it more than a few times, it just feels repetitive.
Okay, an email in from Bernard who says, "Hi BFM, love everything about the station except for one issue. When are you going to extend your transmission range down south to Singapore? There's still space. So why is BFM only in the Klang Valley?" That's a question a lot of people ask us. Are you planning on moving it elsewhere?
Okay, so there's two parts to that, I think. One is Singapore and one's the rest of Malaysia. Penang, we'd love to go to Penang, we'd love to go to Johor. Unfortunately, there's a frequency shortages there. We submitted an application before. It was rejected in Penang, and simply because there weren't enough frequency spectrum. We didn't prove a good enough case that there will be no interference. So we'll have to figure that out. Johor, absolutely no frequencies. They share some frequencies with Singapore. Singapore, actually, interestingly, I looked seriously at a proposal to set up BFM in Singapore. The cost structure is just way too high, and it's really not. I'm a businessman too. I looked at the ROIs of those, not doable.
Okay.
And of course, interestingly enough, I guess a lot of people do listen to radio in their cars.
Yeah.
And I guess Singaporeans don't spend as much time in their cars as we do.
10 minutes, everything is 10 minutes away.
Not so now. I think that was between 20 minutes to half an hour.
But of course, the overriding thing about all this is that you can listen to BFM on www.bfm.my. I mean, you can switch it on and where you're in the office.
Yeah.
And soon you'll have an iPhone app.
Soon on the iPhone app, and I think I really recommend the iPhone app. I'm the only guy who has the beta at the moment.
I know, and you don't fail to tell us about it on Twitter every time.
There'll be very, very soon just one more bug, and we're done.
All right, so back to cost for a minute here, which ties in with a tweet that we got. Is BFM making money?
Yes, we are making a little bit. I like to make more so that we can invest in technology. We can invest in getting our technology disseminated, meaning our iTunes, and creating a better, more user-friendly interfaces and so on. I think, I'd like to make a little bit more to be able to do those things.
We'd like that too.
Yes, and of course, you guys have a stake in the organization.
We do indeed.
So a certain percentage of dividends that this company will produce will go to you guys. So I'm declaring it on air. So you do not. So you know that I'm not bluffing about this.
So we're going to download this podcast.
Download it and make sure it's in the just really secure.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so you can keep calling us 0377109000, text 0162019000, or tweet us at BFM Radio. It's a slow roast with the boss of BFM, Malik Ali. Stay with us. BFM 89.9. BFM 89.9, the business station. Caroline, Ezra, Uma here with you on the evening edition, together with the boss of BFM, Malik Ali. Any questions you have for him, the number to call is 0377109000. You can text 016201900 or tweet us at BFM Radio. We'll try to get to all your questions in just a little bit.
Right, we've got another text from Bob of PDA. It's a very interesting text because I think it's something that all media associations are struggling with at the moment. But he says, he brought up that advert we mentioned earlier. So he says, advert on turn signals use the Chinese accented driver's voice. Isn't this just as racist as the notorious ATV PSA showdown on Ramadan?
Is Puak Chukang racist? I mean, it's just a sender of, just a funny thing. I think that's something. I think one thing I believe in BFM is that I don't think there's a direct comparison with ATV ad. I think the main thing is that within BFM, and what I'd like our listeners to appreciate is that the ability to laugh at ourselves. I think that's something I like to encourage. I like to encourage us to kind of look back at things and just be able to sort of laugh at ourselves sometimes. So there was no ill intent. Just the ability to sort of parody a few things. And to have the confidence of doing it.
All in good humor.
It is about the execution at the end of the day.
Okay, now we're heading over to Alex, who we have on the line. Hey, Alex, Malik is listening. What do you have to say?
Hi. Hello.
Yes. Hi, Alex.
Is it Malik?
Yes, Malik's fine.
Yes, Malik. Okay. I want to say happy 3rd birthday to your station.
Thank you, sir.
I'm an ardent listener to your programs. I agree with what the listener says about the songs being repeated quite often.
Okay.
I would like the presenter to actually announce the songs and the artists, because a lot of the songs that are played we don't get to hear in other radio stations.
Yeah.
And then the second question is actually look into what we call a comedy belt, where you comedy is all about comedies on the lighter side.
Yeah.
That's all. Thank you very much.
Agree completely with you. Caroline, take note of the song thing.
I will do my best.
Okay,
I will do my best. Boss has given instructions live on air. Live on air. Caroline, take note. Online, we've got Joe. Joe, what do you have to say? Joe. Hey, Joe.
Hi.
What do you have to say?
I know this question has been asked before, but before that, congratulations on your 3rd anniversary.
Thank you very much, Joe.
You used to have BPL matches broadcast live.
Yes.
You don't have that anymore. Why is that though?
Yeah. What happened was the rights to the BPL has now transferred to individual clubs. So instead of one, what happens instead of one aggregator passing us those, selling those rights, basically they've passed it to the 20 clubs or whatever. I mean, so what has happened is that we have to talk to every individual club to get those radio rights. Not worth the hassle.
All right, thank you very much for that, Joe. Moving along to some tweets.
We have a tweet, this from Twanwood. BFM Radio, what would you want BFM to be known for? We've celebrated 3 years. In 3 years' time, what would we want to be known for?
I think something I guess that we've talked about a little bit internally is our role. What is our role? Whether now or in 3 years' time. And I think one of the key things is that I'd like us to be in a position where we facilitate the transition of Malaysian society. A platform for us to facilitate the transition of Malaysian society to one that is more rational, more inclusive, and more open-minded. I think that's something that we all came up with, and that's I think if we can continue to go along those lines, and a lot of it has to do with education. So that will, whether 3 years or now, I hope we still pursue that direction.
Just hoping that we can provide something on a sustainable basis in the next few years as well.
Of course, I believe that the intelligence is out there. X-Files, the truth is out there. Intelligence is out there. We're just facilitators. To be honest, when Caroline interviews someone, she's just facilitating someone, our guest.
Another generational.
Yes.
Sorry.
We have Madonna True Blue
and the X-Files.
Another text message in here asking you, Malik, about these subjects. We were talking a little bit about this earlier. Subjects to avoid. How do you push the envelope when there are so many limitations?
I think it's all about if you can show that you're genuine in trying to be constructive. I think no one can fault you for that, and I think that's the main thing. You need to. I think we need to understand the nuances. We need to understand the hot buttons of various folks. But I think at the end of the day, if you're pursuing a constructive agenda, I think that's all doable.
We had another text as well. A very interesting question, actually. Do you plan to do out-of-studio interviews so we can get statements from policymakers, say, after parliament sittings and major corporate announcements and AGMs?
I think we need to get to a certain resource level for that. In plain speak, we need more people to do that. So right now, I think we're trying to do that. We can't completely cover all bases like I think mature media organizations do. But we'll build slowly towards that if they're of value.
And of course, we are also aware that after midnight here at BFM Radio, there's a lot of local music content. Yep. There was a tweet there in terms of asking what is the rationale and the idea behind that in terms of whether there can be expansion of sort of non-English songs.
Okay. I think we got to our license conditions do state a certain local content component, I guess in terms of class in Malaysia. So we have a specific timetable for that. I guess one thing is that one thing I've learned about radio is that consistency is important. So we can't surprise listeners too much when they come to BFM. Suddenly they hear, what's this? So the consistency that to know that when you come back to BFM you can expect certain things. That needs to continue. But we can create destination programming where we say, okay, at this time, we have a different take on things.
Also, a fun question or curious question. Malek, whose idea was it to come up with the multi-BFM acronyms?
That was Zuhong. I worked with him since his days. He's a creative director of McKenna Erickson. I worked with him since when he was with Leo Burnett in the late 90s. I came up to him and said, hey, I want something. I said, look, the business station is the thing. He says, Malek, you know what? Hang on a second. Not everyone is going to know. Some people might be put off. Let's add an element of mystery and let's add an element of fun to what is what can be perceived to be a very corporate business-like station. So that's how BFM came. Credit to Zoo. Thank you very much to Zoo for that.
That's a very good idea, and it works actually, because I remember when 2.5 years ago when they had first approached me to do Bookmark, and they were like, oh, it's a business station. I'm like, really? You want me to talk about books? And then when they handed me all these business cards, it kind of gave you a lot of room to play. Yeah, which is very good.
But there's another tweet on that in terms of, I guess you spoke about consistency about the music, and because there's content about that. Folks have a sort of tussle between the idea of this being a business station and I guess the potential to be everything else, and everybody wants it to be what he wants, an arts program, is there any uncertainty about what the identity of BFM is?
No, I think it caters to the working professional. I mean, that's the target audience: working professional, business owners, entrepreneurs. But I guess working professionals have very varied, interests, right? They're thinking about work during daytime. They want their dose of business news before they go to work. But I think after, you splinter into various interest groups. Some like books, some like music, some like sports, and that's what we try to do. We try to cater to the core audience, to all their interests, not just their business interests.
All right. This one that says, I noticed the presenter has 3 LCD screens. It's actually a suggestion. In front with an interviewee across the table. During the interview, he has to turn left, look at the message screen, turn right, and this and that, while still focused on the person. This is obviously someone who watched the video.
Oh no.
I thought it was just my mom.
No. Yes. So watching BFM.my, you can see what's happening in the studio. So Malik, does it surprise you that people actually go through this kind of effort, and they send emails in, they send text and tweets, the passion that BFM brings to the table,
telling us which software, what we should
do and what we shouldn't do. Yes.
I think that's extremely laudable. I really look forward to those kind of things. Actually, a lot of our programming are inspired by what people say. I mean, the gentleman earlier said about comedy, and I think we that kind of like ding, another data point to say this is another person who wanted comedy. We've been collecting this sort of data on what people want.
How much is usable, would you say?
I think, and to be honest, most of it is usable. And if you have any feedback on the programs, go to survey.bfm.my and just let us know what the feedback is. And there you can see all the programs and just tell us what you think about individual programs. I think presenters look forward to this feedback as well, so that we can improve. So I think it's extremely laudable, and I really look forward every time that feedback at bfm.my email comes through. We all have access to it.
There's no filter process.
There's no filter.
We receive it, right in our email.
That's right.
Mike, we have another tweet from Sashi. How are you able to survive being independent in an industry dominated by big media? We've spoken about, I guess, BFM, making profit and its, sustainability. Have you ever been a takeover target?
Even before I started the station, all the 3 big media groups came up and said, "We want to buy you," and they just want, they just want to buy, I guess, the license and create a positioning around it. And that's not the point, right? The point is, I think we're making a difference here. It's more than just about money. I think the people who invested in BFM did not just invest for its profit potential. They invest because they've actually made their money already. But they've actually invested because they believe that Malaysia can go forward. They want to build a better place. And I think that is something that I share, and I think that's something that we all share. So that's, I think it's more than about just dollars and cents.
All right, a text came in. Are there any government rules which you think should be removed to improve the quality of the radio station, Malik?
I think I wish I could right now we all editorially we have to figure out nuances and all that, and basically it's a sensitivity of people in government and so on. And I wish there is an element of trust in the same way that we trust our listeners. We're calling in, you're live on air, and we trust that you do not sort of go on an effing blinding rage. So in that way, trust us to make the call for constructive things. I think there's an element of I think what sometimes I know in Jemaah this time there's an element of sensationalism that comes with trying to drive circulation to get readers and all that. That I think is sometimes unnecessary. I don't subscribe to that, but maybe because of that we have the rules that we have. But I think generally just trust us a little bit more. We're trying to do the right. We're trying to do the same things. If you're a person of integrity, if you're a person that wants the country to move forward, we're with you.
Wow, the gangster in my Ali just came out in that last segment. Very impressive indeed.
All right, on that note, we're going to wrap up the slow roast with Malik Ali. Malik, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, team. Thank you.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. Waiting to have you on the show. Finally, we've had you here. Happy birthday, BFM. We've got football lined up. Today is Life's a Pitch that's coming your way with Ross Yusuf in just a little bit. Uma?
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? We just had one tweet come in from @Swanee who goes, "Wow, Malek Ali's voice is always so dreamy."
BFM 89.9.